Hi Year 7s. In this lesson today, our learning intention is to find the mean, median, mode, and the range. So your success will look like if by the end of this tutorial or this lesson, can you find the mean, the median, mode, and range from a list of data by hand? In other words, by doing it with a pen and your brain and not using a calculator or the computer. So let me think of an example for you. Pretend you play soccer. And in soccer, you've played 7 games and you want to talk about how many goals your team has scored. So in the first game, you scored 1 goal. Second game, you scored 0. Third game, you got 1. Fourth game, you got 3. And then you had a good game and your team scored 5. And then you scored 3 again. And in the last game, you got 1. And you're trying to tell people about your team, and you say, well, we scored 1 goal, then we scored 0 goals, and then you said, well, then we scored 1, and then we scored 3, and then we scored 5, and then we scored 3, and then we scored 1. If you're trying to tell someone about how many goals your team has scored, that's a really long list of numbers. There's only 7, but it takes a long time if you're trying to tell them anything about it. One thing these 4 up top can help you do, mean, median, mode, and range, is it can sort of summarize or put a long list of numbers into a shorter form and tell them information about the numbers instead of listing every single number. So there's currently only 7 numbers. Maybe that's not too bad. But imagine if you had 100 numbers and how long it would take you to tell anyone 100 numbers. Or you could tell them little bits about it, that tell them information about it. So we have these 4 things that help us, called the mean, the median, the mode, and the range. Some of these I'm sure you are familiar with, or maybe it's been used in a different word, but in this lesson we're going to go through how I would calculate, or how you should calculate, the 4 of these things by hand. And let's start off with my favorite, the mean. The mean is a fancy word, and a lot of you will recognize the word average. So if you've never seen the word mean before, it just means average. So if I look back to my list of numbers, where's it gone? Here it is. When you get a question like this, the first thing I always want you to do is to get your list of numbers and write them from smallest to largest. And this will make sense shortly, but I'm going to do that down here. I'm going to list my numbers, and then there's 2 3s and a 5, from smallest to largest, and that'll make sense why we do that shortly. So the mean is the average. The way you find the average is the first thing you do is you add up all the numbers. Plus 3, plus 3, plus 5. I add up all my numbers, 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, 14. It equals 14. That's step 1. The next step I do is count up how many numbers do I have. So here's my numbers up here. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. So first step is to add them up. Second step, how many numbers did I have? To find the average, or the mean, same word, same meaning. You get the total, you divide it by the number of, or the amount of numbers you had. And the average is 2. So instead of saying your scores individually, you could say, well, we scored on average 2 goals a game. I might just leave a little red mark here so you remember the steps I did. Here's step 1. Add up all the numbers. Here's step 2. How many numbers are there? And here's step 3. It's a bit out of order here, but that's okay. 3 is divide the numbers, so 14, add them up. Divide it by how many numbers there are altogether. You get an average of 2. That's a much nicer way. Instead of saying we scored 1, 0, then 1, then 1, then 1, then 2. You can say we scored on average 2 goals a game. That's pretty nice. So that's a mean. What's next? Oh, the median. I'll do it over here. Let me change my color quickly. Median. Median is another way of saying what's the middle number? The middle number of my list. I don't know why it's doing that. Go away. So I'll rewrite my numbers again, and this is why I just said before, you want to write these from smallest to largest, because you can see if you're trying to find the middle number, If it's already listed from smallest to largest, there's a few strategies you can use, but a really nice one is to just start crossing them out from one end to the other, and you'll come across the middle number is 1. That's it. That's the median. What's the middle number of your list? You have to remember it has to be from smallest to largest. And the last two I'm going to fit on this last part of the page here. There's the mode, that's an O. Thing in the middle here. And then there's the range. Now the mode is a fancy way of saying the most frequent number. So in other words, which frequent number, which one turned up the most. Another reason why you want them in order is you can sort out your numbers and you can see which one turns up the most. Well, it equals 1 because there's 3 1s, 2 3s, 1 5, 1 0. The mode is 0. There can be no mode. So if they all turned up once, there would be no mode. Or you can have 2 modes. Maybe there was 2 1s and 2 3s. You could say it's 2 modes or bimodal, and that there's 2 modes. The last one we'll quickly talk about is the range. The range is the highest minus the lowest. And again, another excellent reason why you want to arrange them from smallest to largest is when you're finding these other things, it's so much easier this way. What's the highest number? It's 5. Minus, what's the lowest number? Minus 0. Well, in this case, it's 5. And that's all there is to it. And that's the end of this lesson. So now, hopefully, if you were given a list of numbers, in this case, there were 7 numbers and we were talking about soccer goals, but it could be anything. It could be like people's height in the classroom, or it could be how many siblings you have, or something like that. Hopefully you can now find the mean, the median, the mode, and the range.